من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بفضل الله، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد. A human needs interaction with others, and that no man is an island, that no one is alone, no one can be isolated, no one can live on their own. As we say in Lebanese, we say Al-Jannah bala nas ma btandas, paradise without people, you can't live in it. You can't live in a place where there's no one around you. It's in our nature as human beings to be social. Now, we have our relationship with our Creator, that He created us, we are the creation. But we also need relationships with our fellow human beings and being with them. But I need to know the limitations of my relationships, how I deal with humans and how I deal when it comes to my Creator. Generally, we have problems in our life, and we have a habit when it comes to dealing with these problems of going towards people. When Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, وَإِنْ يَمْسَسْكَ اللَّهُ بِضُرٍّ فَلَا كَاشِفَ لَهُ إِلَّا هُوَ. That if anything afflicts you, any problem comes to you, no one will relieve you of this affliction except Allah Azza wa Jal. This is the way He makes it simple for us, to always turn to Him when I have a problem. Alhamdulillah, as Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam says in Dua Abi Hamza, Alhamdulillah alladhi wakalani ilayh فأكرمني ولم يكلني إلى الناس فيهينوني. That Allah Azza wa Jal puts you and your affairs in His hands, your problems in His hands, the resolution to your problems in His hands, and in fact He makes it strictly that way to save you from humiliation. In fact, Allah Azza wa Jal, when He mentions this in a narration on Rasulullah, He says that Allah says in this narration, لَأَقْطَعَنَّ أَمَلَ كُلِّ مُؤَمِّلٍ غَيْرِي بِالْيَأْسِ وَلَأَكْسُوَنَّهُ ثَوْبَ الْمَذَلَّةِ عِنْدَ النَّاسِ. So anyone that has hope from other than me, He says, I will give them despair. Their hope will become despair. And I will dress them in the clothing of humiliation if they go to other than me. Why does He say this? Why does Allah Azza wa Jal say this? He says in another part of this narration, He says, أَيَأْمُلُ أحد غيري في الشدائد وأنا الحي الكريم. Does anyone have any hope in other than me when I am the living and I am the one that gives? The grace comes from me. I am the generous. There's none other than me. I'm living. When He says أنا الحي, why does He mention this? If you notice in Ayat al-Kursi we say الله لا إله إلا هو الحي Al-Qayyum. Why is it imperative that he uses this when it comes to his giving, that he's Hayy, that he's all living? One of the biggest problems that Christianity had from the outset was what? When they came out and said Jesus is God, one of the biggest problems they had is Jesus was crucified according to Christianity, and Jesus was dead. Jesus died for 3 days. The fact that he died for 3 days was a big problem for them, because if God is dead, what were the people doing for those 3 days? God wasn't around. How do they deal with their problems? So that's when they came out with a triune belief in order to save it. They made sure that it'd be a way for them to save this, because Allah is living. He says, how does someone turn to other than me when I'm eternally living? I'm always living. I'm never away, I'm always here. How do they turn to other than me? One man came up to Al-Imam Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir salawatullahi wa salamu alayh, and he said to him, this man, the narration says it was Jabir. In this narration he says, Yarhamuka Allah mas sabrul jameel. What is a sabr al-jameel? You know, when we mention the word jameel as in beautiful, what is this beautiful patience? What is this patience that's supposed to have this beauty? فالإمام عليه السلام قال ذلك صبر ليس فيه شكوى إلى الناس. The patience that where a person does not complain to the people. This is sabr jameel, where it's held within, where you don't complain to a single person. You need to understand, when you're complaining to a friend, you make that friend miserable. You know, some people don't understand this. It's like when some people, for some reason, they think it's loyalty, for example, to tell someone if someone spoke about them. They thought, someone said something bad about someone, Mr. Y said something bad about Mr. X. If I go tell Mr. X will be happy because I've got his back. You don't have his back. If you had his back, you would have defended him while the person was talking, and not come and tell him, because when you tell him, you will upset him. Likewise, when I sit and complain all the time, I make my friends feel miserable. And they feel helpless if they can't help you. They just sit and listen. And if you complain to an enemy, a foe, they find joy with your misery, that you've got problems. Have you ever seen those people that claim to be Muslims, that always go onto the radio, or they sit with the opposition, and they always talk about Islam, and they say all these bad things about Islam, complain about what's in, and the other person's saying, good, you know, give me more information. At no point do they feel happy for you. In fact, you're the sacrificial lamb to them at the first possible occasion. So neither of these can come to your avail. Another thing is, everyone has problems, and everyone has your problems. You've heard that saying, we say, "Kunna fil hawa sawa." Everyone's in on it. Everyone's living the same. We're all in the same predicament. We all have the same plight. Don't think when you're complaining to someone that this person's floating in the sky and he sees rainbows and candy falls from the sky, and this person's just enjoying it, and every vision he has out of the window is a waterfall and greenery. No, everyone's suffering like you are. Everyone has problems, but some people know how to deal with problems better than others. And other people's problems differ than yours. Sometimes something that you see to be so great, others see it as small, and things that they see small, you see as great, and vice versa. One man was once standing and he was supplicating, and he said, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-fitan, or min al-fitna, afwan. He said, oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from fitna, from trials. You know, save me from having any trials. So Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, upon hearing him, he said, أَرَاكَ تَتَعَوَّضُ مِن مَالِكَ وَوَلَدِكَ. Are you asking Allah basically to free you of your wealth and your children? Because the Quran says, يقول الله, it says, إنما الأموالكم وأولادكم فتنة, that your wealth and your children are what? A trial. So you are asking Allah to get rid of your wealth. You are asking, if someone says, I don't want a trial, you're asking Allah to take away your wealth, and you're asking Allah to take away your children. Then the Imam says, ولكن قل اللهم إني أعوذ بك من مضلات الفتن. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal to take away from you what? Oh Allah, I seek refuge from you. From what? From the perversion of trial. What causes you to get off the right course? But trial is imminent. Trial will take place. Trial is inevitable. You cannot live your life without being tried. And even Yaqub alayhi salam made it clear when he wept. After his sons had done their little game and they got rid of Yusuf alayhi salam, and then Binyamin went and he began to weep. And he wept so much, and they said, Father, why do you keep weeping? And you are basically, why is your situation, sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad? Why is your situation as such? قال إنما أشكو. He says, قال ما إن أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله وأعلم من الله ما لا تعلمون. That my complaint of my suffering and my grief is to who? Is to Allah. And I know from Allah which you do not know. That He teaches them there, my complaint is to Allah. I'm weeping. Remember when I spoke about grieving, that it's normal for you to grieve. It's that reaction afterwards. He says, I'm grieving. Especially in the case of Yaqub, to have a son like Yusuf. To have a son like Yusuf who was a prophet, a messenger of God that was taken away from him. Something worthy of weeping over. But he says, my complaint is to Allah Azza wa Jal. Now hold on, does that mean that when I have a problem, I can only complain to Allah Azza wa Jal? Sometimes I need help. We don't have confessionals in Islam. We don't have places where you go and you just blurt out everything you have. No, I come and talk to someone for advice because I need to get some advice. I need someone that I can talk to understand. Is this permissible in Islam for me to do this? Firstly, if I want to turn to someone, this person that I turn to has to be a believer. Now some people, they've got a problem and they want to go talk to a problem, complain or bring out their problem. They complain to someone that's not a believer. The first type of person I need to complain to must be a believer. The second thing, this person must be a person that understands, has understanding, not just a believer, that someone believes in Allah on the Day of Judgment, but can't even solve anything in their life and you come and tell him your problem. They've got to be people that can solve issues. Has to be someone that has understanding. Another thing, this person must have taqwa, meaning that this person fears God. This isn't a person that says, all right, talk away, and the next second, you find out everyone knows about your dilemma. Everywhere you go, everyone knows your problem. Has to be someone that has taqwa. If you're complaining to someone that doesn't have understanding, then they're not someone that will avail you. Also, you need to remember sometimes a problem that you have could be for your benefit. Well, Allah Azza wa Jal says, عَسَى أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ وَعَسَى أَن تُحِبُّ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. That sometimes something may happen to you, and it's what? Something that you dislike, but it may be good for you. Sometimes something may happen to you and something that you like, but it's bad for you. Allah Azza wa Jal knows, and you do not know. You don't know. Perhaps this is a situation. Sometimes a problem is for your own good. And we'll talk about this as we move along. Some people actually complain when they have a real problem. Real problem, and they come and complain to people in order to get some understanding. Because if we were to complain for everything that befell us, we would never stop complaining. And someone that understands the purpose of this life won't start complaining immediately. He'll know how to deal with it. Because if you ask, why is this happening? Is it supposed to happen to me? Yes, this world's a trial. Then why are you complaining? If this is supposed to happen to you, what's the purpose of you complaining? That you are here. If I address this world as it is, I know things are meant to happen. And then you have those people that complain for no reason at all. The half cup empty. They see the negative in everything. They never see anything right. Everything they have to see it negatively. The door slams. Why did you slam that door like that? You have a problem with me. There was a draft outside. It hit the door. Yeah, sure. Everything there has to be something negative about it. They just want to complain for the sake of complaining. And if you're running in that negative fast lane, you're always going to be fueled by complaints. You're always going to have this problem. If you have that way of looking at everything, if you're that negative person when it comes to everything, you will always have a complaint. You need to see good in a trial. Al-Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Qadhim salawatullahi wa salamu alayh, when he was thrown in prison, out of all places in prison, talking about proper dungeons that they used to throw the people in those days, he said in a narration, I'm paraphrasing, that I asked Allah Azza wa Jal to have this freedom to be able to worship Him in solitude, to be able to worship. And now I have been given this through prison. Imagine in prison he even saw the benefit of the trial in that manner. Then you got what I was saying, the people that complain, the negative people, these chronic complainers. What you need to understand is they want to tell others about their problems all the time. And the thing is with a chronic complainer, they're not looking for a solution and they're not looking for advice. They just like to complain. And like I said in previous speeches, they complain so much sometimes you think this guy must be worse off than anybody I've ever met. And they could be even better off than you, but they're just chronic complainers and they can't stop. Even if you give them advice that will help them, they're not happy to hear it. Some other times people are just venting. Yeah, these people, they get angry, they just vent. One of the best things you could do when someone's venting is do what? Just listen. Hear them out. Wait till they vent. When they finish, that's it. Then they're back to normal. That's why, I'll tell you something. This, if you want to be good, if you want to have good skills at counseling people, listen. Don't respond until you hear a question. See, sometimes they're just telling you what's going on. Just sit and listen to what, if you want to be a good friend, a good shoulder to lean on, someone wants to talk to you, let them vent. Let them talk. Sometimes they don't want the solution. They know the solution. Wait for them to ask a question. If they don't, once they finish venting, you know what they're going to say? You know, you're a good bloke. I felt good talking to you. And you actually said nothing. All you did was listen to them. And that's what works in a marriage. Because women sometimes like to talk. They like a guy to listen. All you do is listen. And be careful when the question comes up. Usually that comes up when there's a pause. If the pause goes for too long, you're in trouble. And that's when you need to realize how to react there. To complain about our plight to Allah is good. To complain to Allah Azza wa Jal about our problems is a good thing because you're complaining to Allah. Unlike those that want to complain about Allah. But you shouldn't complain about everything. When it comes to, remember when I said dealing with people, complain about problems, have resolutions. Don't complain about everything you have. I remember when I first went to the Middle East, to one of the Middle Eastern countries, which you obviously all know. I used to get in with the cab drivers, and they used to complain. Back then, and I'll give you an idea, where you would be able to fill your car with petrol, with diesel at the time, you'd fill up a third of your tank with petrol, and you'd fill it up for about approximately $5 Australian. And I'm not using any hyperbole. That's how much you used to pay. And used to get in there and they would complain and they would complain and they complain, and then the diesel was barred from taxis. You were only allowed to use petrol. Once again, they would complain and they would complain. Petrol's much more expensive. And then petrol prices rose. They would keep complaining. So I just thought to myself, these guys must have had it really good when they were on diesel. Because the price changes didn't vary that much and they're still complaining. So they must have been making a lot of money from the very beginning, but they kept on complaining. Or you'll meet someone, you'll tell him, can you drive me from this place to another? And they say, Wallah, maybe wafi, mate. It's not worth it for me to take you. If it's not worth it, why do you go out in the morning? Go get another job. Or they'll tell you, Wallah, khasran. It's a loss. How could it be at a loss and you're still selling it to me? If you're actually losing money, why would you sell it? Why would I be selling an item if it's at a loss? But they have this nature where they need to completely keep on complaining about everything. I need to understand that I have to take a step back and stop complaining and be thankful to Allah, because things could be worse, as I mentioned with the cab drivers. And this is an opportunity when I have a problem to strengthen my relationship with Allah. I have a problem, I turn wholeheartedly to my Creator at this point. Zainab alayhi salam said when she was asked, what have you seen with what Allah has done to you? She said, I did not see except beauty from Allah Azza wa Jal. I only saw good things from Allah. This is what she said in the face of the tyrant. But did she complain to Allah? Did she supplicate to Allah about her plight? No problem between her and Allah, of course. This is how the creation do. They turn to Allah when they have a problem, but they don't talk about Allah to the creation. Because they know the problem is not from Allah Azza wa Jal. I remember once a sister called me from, this was a long time ago, almost 20 years ago. She called me from overseas and she said to me that I don't believe in Allah. I don't believe in God. So I said, why don't you believe in Allah Azza wa Jal? She said, I don't believe in Allah because Allah took away my child. So I said to her, when did your child pass away? She said, my child's not dead. I said, okay. What happened to your child? So she said that I was with someone and we were friends. And we were alone one day and he took advantage of me. And I ended up with a child. And the community I was in, they blamed me that I was the problem. So my parents said, because this child is born out of wedlock, we don't want nothing to do with this child. So they took the child to an orphanage. And now I'm without a child. And I would like to have my child. I said throughout the story, I was much younger then, so I was pretty brutal. Not as brutal as I am. Less brutal than what I am now. More brutal, sorry, I should say, than what I am now. But I was. So I said to her, firstly, you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay? And what were you doing having a relationship with a guy that you were seeing and being in isolation with him? Obviously, you're still young, but the points I was saying are still valid. And then I said, when the child was born, your parents took this child. Now the whole time the culprit has been either you or this man or your parents. Yet you've blamed it all on who? On Allah Azza wa Jal. You've turned it all on Allah. She said, yes, but Allah shouldn't have allowed this to happen. And I said, why? Are you in paradise? She said, no. I said, where are you? She said, in dunya. And I said, what does the dunya have? The dunya has trials. The dunya has trials. The dunya has problems. The dunya has bala. Why do you think when we turn to a person that has a problem, someone passes away, what is the first thing we remind them of? We told them to make a ma'tam, make a majlis for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Why do we recall the tragedy of the Imam? Why do we revive the tragedy of the Imam? Because once we see this musibah, every problem becomes nothing. It miniaturizes all your problems. Why does it miniaturize? Because when you turn around and reflect over the tragedy of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, number one, who is Imam Hussein alayhi salam? You know, when we're reading Hadith al-Kisa, what do we say? When we read إِنِّي مَا خَلَقْتُ سَمَاءً مَبْنِيًّا, that Allah Azza wa Jal says, I created this entire universe for the sake of these five that are beneath this cloak. Do you imagine the whole universe was made for them? The entire universe was made for them. And they were placed on this earth. And if they were to command the heavens to come down on the earth, it would. This is the position Allah Azza wa Jal had given them. Yet they would go through trial after trial after trial, and they were patient in the way of Allah. To the point when we get to the nights where we remember the martyrdom of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, just to understand his position. Al-Allama al-Amini, Radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi, the author of Al-Ghadir, says, the compiler of Kitab Al-Ghadir, he says that I never understood or knew the courage of Amir al-Mu'mineen in Badr. Imagine the courage of Ali in Badr. Nor in the Khandaq. Nor in Hunayn. This is not where I knew the courage of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He said, I knew his courage on the day they attacked his house. So why? Because Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam is known for what he can do in battle. For him to hold back from this because of a command from Allah Azza wa Jal, this is the most difficult thing. Imagine someone that says لو اجتمع ولتضافر العرب على قتلي لما وليت عنها. Someone that says if every one of these Arabs united to kill me, I would kill them all. I would fight them all. I would defeat them all. And at this moment, he has to be patient. So when you sit there and you say, where are my problems? How many people here, honestly, in your head, you don't need to answer this, so you're not going to be liable for it. How many people here, if they found someone enter their house, this person would make it back out again? Really? Imagine, let's furthermore, that you had the ability, and you were known for this ability, but you were commanded to be patient. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he was in Karbala, had many opportunities to fight them before, because don't forget the armies hadn't fully come together. They came battalion after battalion until they joined. From the very beginning, he knew what was going to happen to him. He knew his plight. But we have set laws, and they follow these laws, and they know how the dunya is. And never at any point do you see, for example, another thing, back to the Christians. One of the biggest problems that you find in Christianity is when they say Jesus was being crucified. He turned around and said, oh Allah. He said, Father. He didn't say, oh Allah, and the Bible doesn't say that. He said, Father, Father, why have you abandoned me? Could you imagine that? Imagine, could you imagine a believer, forget about a prophet, a believer turns to Allah and says to Allah, what? Imagine you said to Allah, Jafaitani, that you have forsaken me. Could you imagine that? You abandoned me. A prophet of God said this. No point did the Imam turn and complain in this manner. The Imam knew, Sha Allah an yarani qatila, and that was enough for him to go in this manner. That Allah wishes, Allah wills for me to be a martyr, and so be it. And women to be taken captive, so be it. Inshallah, we'll continue the second part of this discussion when it comes to being grateful and not complaining. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to accept our actions, and I'll leave the remainder of the dua to be made by Samahat Sayyid. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.